All right, sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties. So welcome so much. I'm Amy from Sevens Crafts, and I'm here on the Altenew Live channel. And today I would like to start talking about some dies. So I'm just waiting for some people to come on in. And I'd love to know when you come in if you are a person who, when you go out to buy supplies, are you somebody who buys dies? Are you somebody who buys stamps? Like if you got a little extra money, do you kind of splurge on a die set? Or do you kind of spend it on some stamp sets? So who are you? Are you that person who's like, I really like dies? Or are you like, I really like stamps? Because today we're going to be playing around with the Parlor Palm die set. So yay, hello everybody. It's so nice to see you. I'd love to know where you're coming from today. And please make sure that you say hi to Lydia, who is behind the badge. Actually, you should be saying good evening to Lydia, who is behind the badge. Hey, Sue. It's so nice to see you all. And thank you so much for being here. And I'd love to know if you're a person who likes to buy dies or you're a person who likes to buy stamps. And then don't forget to share this. And if you share this, you can be entered into a drawing to win a $15 gift card to Altenew, so you can buy your next set of wonderful dies. And maybe you'll be getting this die set, which is called the Parlor Palm die set. And this is the Parlor Palm. And it comes with these really, really lovely fern fronds. And you can use them by themselves, or you can use them with, as fillers with other like flowers and things like that. So I'd love to know, do you own this set? How many of you have the Parlor Palm set out there? And have you used it? Is this one of the sets that you like? Hi, Carol. Hi, Sue. No, so nice to see you guys. I'm so glad that you guys are here with me today on the Altenew Live. And we're going to be looking at and exploring how to stretch your dies. I've kind of been feeling, I don't know how you guys have been feeling out there, but I've been feeling like that I want to really kind of like focus in on some of the specific things that I have and kind of stretch them and see how I can use them in other ways. All right, so Charlene, Parlor Palms, I see that you have it. And Brianna, you have this. Have you used it yet? Is this something that's been hiding in the back of your stash and you're just not sure what to do with it? Because we're going to look at a couple of different ways. Hey, April, thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing. Please make sure that you share this live and you can be entered to win a $15 gift card to Altenew. So you might be able to go ahead and buy the Parlor Palm die set. So thank you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you guys what we're going to do today. And we're going to be using this die set in a couple of different ways. So I'm really excited to share that with you. And I hope that this inspires you to kind of look at your die sets and think about them in some different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and change out the camera. So yes, please share this and make sure you're saying good evening to Lydia. And this is what we're going to be doing today. So I have these two cards here. And what you can see on these cards is you can see that these are cut out with that Parlor Palm die set. And we're going to be using them both as kind of a feature, but I'm also going to be using them as stamping. And so how many of you guys have ever stamped with your die? So that's something we're going to be working on today with them. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to be inking up this background. So this is Yupo paper. This is Yupo paper. Lori, hello from Massachusetts. That's where I am too. Lori, where are you at in Massachusetts? That's awesome. I'm going to be using some of the Altenew alcohol inks. And these are just refills for the actual alcohol inks. But you can use them to make some really cool backgrounds. So the three that I have today are Shadow Creek, Persian Blue, and Fresh Lemon. So these are the three alcohol inks. Oh, and Hudson. I'm over by Providence. So hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We're working with the Parlor Palm die set today, and we're going to be doing some different things. So the first thing I'm going to do is making an alcohol ink background. Now, how many of you guys love alcohol ink backgrounds? These are super easy to make. Hi, Dawn. Hi from Auckland. That's awesome. And hi, Tanya. Hi, Carol. Thank you for sharing, Erica. Make sure that you guys share this. You get a chance to win a $15 gift card. All right, so let's take a look. Carol, you don't buy standalone dies. Hopefully maybe this might change your mind. So I'm going to take these. Now I'm picking these 3 specific colors because they're analogous, meaning that they're very similar to each other in the color wheel. And so I know that if I put blue and yellow together, I can get green. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of a different green with the Shadow Creek. So when I start off with my alcohol inks, I'm actually just have a blender solution here. So this is just alcohol. Hi, Kathy from Chicago. Hi, Gloria from Long Beach. How is California out there? Must be beautiful out there. Although we've had some good weather over here in the northeast of the United States. Just gonna add a little bit of green. Just kind of get some ink down. And I have a blower. If you don't have one of these things, they're pretty cool tools and they can kind of move the ink around. And you can just see how lovely that Shadow Creek green is. And since I'm going to be using the Parlor Palms, which is a greenery set, I wanted to have a little bit of green in there. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of this Persian blue. A little cloudy today. Yeah, it's nice over here. We've been getting all the nice weather where we are. How many of you crafted last weekend? How many of you guys crafted this weekend? Anybody make anything great? Kind of sticking to just half of this because I don't need the whole piece of Yupo. But you can see as I'm kind of blending these colors around, I'm not making any mud because these are all analogous colors. And if I have any dark spots or any spots where I'm like, I don't think I super like it because this is like looking a little bit dark, I can just add a little bit of this blender solution and that's going to pull that color away. And I can just kind of get it going. I'm just going to move this ink around. And I have to say, I've been making a lot of these panels, and every time that I make one, it comes out completely different. I also was starting with blue on my last one. Just to show you guys with some alcohol ink panels, this is, I'm not doing this today, but I made this card with the Altenew leafy border die. And behind that, just to make that die cut really stand out, is an alcohol inked background. So you can see that I make a lot of these and then I just kind of like pop them around and then I use them behind things. And I actually used some of the doodads from that and then just used it as a background to really accentuate this hello. So it's just an easy way. I like alcohol ink backgrounds. I'm really curious if you like alcohol ink backgrounds, if that's something that you like as well. So yes, I agree, Deepa. It's so great because there's so many people. I love connecting with everybody. And I'm just amazed at somebody who's gone from using a rotary phone. How many of you had a rotary phone when you were growing up? That would be me. To now we can actually connect live through this medium. It's really been amazing. Just going to add a little bit more yellow. Just looking for a little bit more yellow here. There we go. Just kind of moving that around. And I love the fresh lemon with the Persian blue and the green that it makes. And add a tad bit more blue. And alcohol inks backgrounds are one of those ones where I have to kind of tell myself to stop. Just, you know what? You just need to stop and be done with it. All right, that is looking pretty cool. So I'm going to set aside this to dry. And so I have this really nice background. It's got all this nice rich color. Princess phone in my bedroom. Yes, Sue, that was the way to be. Yep. So you can see all this nice color. So as a background, it's pretty cool, but we're going to die cut this up into pieces. And so we'll see how that looks. So I'm going to set this aside to dry for a second and put that over on the side. Now that I'm waiting on that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pull out my Parlor Palm die set, which is right here. So this is a standalone die set. And this is a nice die set because it's very versatile. It can do a lot of different things. And it's really kind of neat. And I love this too because it has these different shapes to it, but there's like 2 of each of them. And that's nice because if you're cutting out a lot of them, you can just put them in on a really, really big plate into your die cutting machine, and then you can just cut everything at once, which is really super great. All right, so I'm going to grab just a piece of regular paper, and I'm also going to grab a piece of craft foam, fun foam. You might see this. I personally, where I buy it is at Michael's, and this is just a white foam. This die cuts absolutely beautifully, and in fact, I did this in my mini blossom machine. How many of you guys have this little guy? He is so great. Oh, hi, Sarah from Illinois. Thank you for sharing. Again, if you guys share this, you'll be in the running for a $15 gift card to Altenew, where you could buy the Parlor Palms die set, or even a mini blossom. Pauline, I totally remember the party line. Totally remember that. That was the best. All right, so this little workhorse is the only guy that I'm going to be using today. And just to kind of show you guys, it actually will cut out the foam shapes super duper well. So I'm just going to grab a piece of fun foam over here. And I'm going to grab my die. Grab this guy. And I'm just going to put this right on the B plate. And I'm just going to run it right through the mini blossom. And this little guy can do so much. So he's such a great little tool to have. And I like doing it for this kind of a thing because my other machine is very loud. And it can take a little bit to go. I do run it through a couple of times, more because I'm paranoid than the fact that the blossom couldn't do it. It just really happens to do with my paranoia on making sure that things are cut out of here. All right. And if you haven't already, go ahead and say good evening over to Lydia, who is behind the badge tonight. And I just want to point out, look at this. It pops right out. Fun foam. That's foam, people. That's foam. So this is great. So what you can do with this is you just take a little bit of tape and you're going to put it on one side of this. And I'm not doing this permanently. You know what's nice is once you make these, you can just stick them into your pocket, like of your, wherever it is that you keep dies. So this is tape side down. And I can put this into kind of like any shape that I want to. There we go. So there we go. So I just made a stamp. So I just used a little bit of foam. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use 2 different kinds of inks, and I'm going to be swapping out my stamps, but I'm going to create a background using these stamps. So I think I'm going to take this little guy, and I want to stamp him in with some olive ink. So I got some olive ink here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to tap this ink onto this. I'm actually going to tap this off because it might be a little too dark. And I'm just going to stamp it. And so there you go. So this is nice because it can make a really, really great background. So I'm going to use, I did this already. So this is a little bit of the magic of television, people. I apologize. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch out. So I have a second block over here. And on my second block, I have one of the other leaves from the Parlor Palm die set. So it already has a little bit of sticky on the back. So all I'm going to do is remount that onto my block. And I think it just needs a little bit more tape. So here it is. There we go. I just made a little stamp with this. So this is a really great thing when you have a standalone die set. Instead of just using it as dies, you can also use it as stamps. All right, on this one, I'm going to use Firefly ink from the Green Valley set. And I'm just going to ink this up. And let's go ahead and add a little bit of parrot just on the edges, just for a little variation here. So whenever you have or you're stamping out a background, you kind of want to start with your larger stamps first and then use the smaller ones. All right, so let me stamp this second one completely. And so you don't get like a super crisp image because it is fun foam, but you do get a nice image. And I'm kind of trying to stamp like on the paper and off the paper. Over here, just for a little bit of difference. There we go. And let me do one more up here. And I'm using a couple of these just to keep it a little bit varied. I don't know if you have like a favorite Altenew green. I would love that to know what it is. What's your favorite Altenew green set? Green inks, green colors. All right, so you can see I'm a little bit filled in here. So and it's gotten a little boring. So I'm going to switch out my stamp here, and I'm going to go to this little thin guy. I didn't use it, so this will be exciting. I just, like I said, you can just keep these. They will probably eventually break down. Just keep them in with your dies or with your die set, and just kind of keep them around. All right, so let me do this one in Firefly. And just to make it like a little different. Okay. And let me do this one in Parrot, a little bit darker. And some of these other spaces that are around. And I'm going to use some of my different inks for that. Throw a little bit of olive in here. Do that one right here. And you can imagine this as like a holiday card. This is so cool, a card too. What are you using to make your stamp, Tina? Tina, I'm using fun foam. So what I did is I took the Parlor Palms, standalone die set from Altenew, and I used just from fun foam mini blossom to cut it out. So this is foam. So this is a nice way to stretch your dies. They're so expensive. Some money, am I going to spend it on a die set, or am I going to spend it on a set? Sometimes a stamp die set. And sometimes I might just pick the die set. I mean, excuse me, the stamp set, because it might just be a little bit cheaper. But so I'm just kind of going all the way through this. And I'm just trying to fill up some spaces now. That's what I'm doing. Just filling up spaces. So I want to kind of get my whole background in with this. All right. So Kiss, if anybody out there, have you used foam for stamping? Have you ever used foam for stamping? Oh. I hope we're doing okay. Lydia, are we doing all right now? Is that a little bit better? Any other connection problems? Oh, I'm so sorry, Kathy. I'm so sorry. And so what we see here today is, yep, I'm so sorry if we're having any connection issues. So what you're looking at here is our background. And so this was all stamped using the Parlor Palm dies, and that this is now this really nice background. So what we're going to do with this background is let's go ahead and turn this into a card. So with this card, what we're going to do next is I'm going to add a sentiment. So we're going to end up with our card looking like this. All right. So you can see that I have this, this background. Oh, I'm so sorry, Karen. You can see that I have this background. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in my sentiment. So the other die set that that is really, really great, and I have to say is one of the things that I think is one of my big, huge picks from Altenew, is the Mega Alphabet die set. This is such a wonderful die set, and it's such a, it's such a really cool way to kind of do this. So I'm going to grab the H and the I, and because of the colors that I have, I want to add a little bit of gold, but I just don't have, I'm one of those people, I just don't have any gold paper or never have it on hand. So I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my enchanted, this is enchanted gold pigment ink. One of the things that I love to do, is I love to use and blend this. And it creates this really, really rich gold. And it also has the shine because it's pigment ink. So this one's really great. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to grab a blending brush that I have here. And the enchanted gold is a little bit light, so you kind of have to be pretty heavy with it for it to really get some color on there. The antique gold is a little bit heavier. This one's a little bit more on the translucent side. So I am really going to town. Like, I'm digging in this ink to try to kind of get this on here, but it gives this beautiful little shine. And I don't need a lot of paper because I'm just cutting out an H and an I. So I don't really need a lot, which is why I'm just grabbing a scrap piece that I have. And again, it's one of those things I really try to kind of stretch my supplies. And so kind of no scrap goes to waste. How many of you out there are no scraps goes to waste? No scrap goes to waste. It's got to do something. It's going to have some sort of function. Oh, that might actually work, Sue. Yes. To add direct to paper. Yes. I'm trying to be neat, though. Does this look a little bit neater than me doing? So I'm going to add this in. So I'm putting a lot of ink on this, and so I'm getting this really, really nice super gold. And this is such a great little color that we have here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this through the mini blossom with the H and the I, and I've already have back in there. Leah has just asked me to kind of put my camera down a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So give me 1 second. I apologize. It might get a little crazy. And there we go. That was pretty smooth, right? Okay. So what is I have the enchanted gold ink on here, and I may add some more once I cut these out. And let me go ahead and put these right onto my paper. Just going to trim off this edge. Okay. All right, so here's awesome. And I love to add dimension and I love to add dimension by cut. So what you're going to see now is H's and I's. So you can see it has this really super nice gold sheen to it. Just want to put that up there. So it's nice and light, but it's got a little gold sheen to it. And I can just add a little bit more ink there. And I'm just going to grab some glue, and I'm just going to stick all these little H's. So I've already pre-cut these. And so I'm just going to add these as some dimension to them. And that's why no scrap goes to waste. No scrap goes to waste here. No scrap goes to waste. So these are my back, and then I put my inked on there, and then I have this really nice kind of stacked die cut that has this nice pretty gold shimmer. And just to show you how that looks with the background, it just is really, really pretty. It's really, really pretty. All right, so let me get the eye ready to go. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to add my top eye on here. And because I have wet glue, it just takes a little bit of time to dry. So I can add these in. And there we go. We're ready to go. Oh, Nancy, your scrap door. Yep. Yes, fun foam works too. I like this too because then I can control the dimension, like how high it's going to be. That's one of the things that I like to do with it. So I tend to use paper, so that way I can figure out how high I want it to go when I think about that dimension. All right, so this is the top of my eye. And I'm going to go ahead and put all of those together. All right, here we go. All right, so now I have my high all set. So let me move these out of the way. Now I also cut out a vellum circle. And when I have a really super busy background, like this, when I put the vellum on, it really allows for there to be, for that high, for that sentiment to really stand out. But it also doesn't cover up your background. So that's one thing that's super nice about the vellum. So this is just a, a circle. I think I made it like 2 1/4 or 2.5 inches in diameter. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of tape. You can glue on this as well, but I think with tape is really faster. And I'm just going to stick them right on my vellum piece. And I'm just really careful to make sure that they line up. Fast. Here we go. So there is our sentiment just on that little vellum piece. And then what I do is right behind the H and the I, so that way you can't see the adhesive. And I'm going to stick that onto my panel right on the corner, right on the side. So you can see how nice that looks with that soft vellum. One of the other definitely sets that I think is whips. Ooh, yeah, I agree, Tina. Are these sentiment strips. And the sentiment strips, these are really great. I don't start digging around for sentiments anymore, like that's part of a stamp set. I just grab these right away, and they're just perfect to add in. And the one to go with this is another standalone die set called Featured Sentiments. And this is really great because it will cut out the exact size of your sentiment from this strip. So I have already on black card embossed using white embossing powder. So this is this detail or very, very crisp white Altenew. This is really, really great. And but I was able to cut it out with that set, and so it leaves these nice, beautiful rounded corners. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam tape to it, and so that way this can kind of pop up and puff up behind my sentiment strip. I just need a little bit of foam tape here. And that way it adds some nice dimension to this. Yeah, so good, Melanie. I have to say, this is definitely, if there's things that are like, I think these are purchased, like these are things that I use like constantly. It's these mega alphabet dies. They are really, really great. All right, so I'm just going to put this right under my high. Hopefully that's straight. So you can see that it just works so perfectly with this. So it works so perfectly. Oh, Carol, I'm so glad. that you're crafting with me. Thank you for crafting with me, Carol. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to back this entire thing onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. And I'm using a colored card base. And I would love to know, are you somebody who uses colored card bases, or is it just me? Like, are your cards all on white, or do you put them onto a card base? I kind of do this, and I make sure my panel is a little bit smaller. And I just go ahead and put that on. And you can just see how that green just sets that off so nicely. And we have one more thing we're going to do to this. So I'm going to set this aside. We're not done with this card yet. Okay. All right. So do you remember when we started this episode, we made a lovely, lovely alcohol inked panel. We made a lovely alcohol ink panel. And so what we're going to do now with this is we're going to cut out those Parlor Palms with this. So I'm going to go back to that Parlor Palm die set, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this through the Yupo paper. And like I said before, I'm going to use my mini blossom to do this. So I need to cut this up into a little bit of pieces because the mini blossom, I believe, is 3 inches across. So I'm just going to cut this up into some strips here. And what we're going to do, cut out you can always go in with an alcohol like marker with one of these. I don't necessarily need that bottom of that, so I'm going to cut. Favorite thing to do with crazy backgrounds is I die them. I actually cut them up, and by die cutting them, it really gives me so much variety. And I'm like, even if I have like the ugliest background and I was like, what was I thinking that day? I can turn it into something pretty cool. All right, so here's my mini blossom, little workhorse of the day today. And here we go. So this is Yupo paper, so it's a little bit thicker. It is plastic. And do recommend that you kind of run this through the mini blossom a couple of times, just to make sure that all that detail of all of those leaves comes out. And what I tend to do sometimes is I'll just make a ton of backgrounds, and I will just cut out all of these kind of pieces of them. And then I collect all the pieces. I have these little tins that I keep my pieces in. And when I'm like, you know, I'm not necessarily feeling a little crafty mojo, I'm going to pull those out, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use them. All right, so let's see how we did here. My ink background is a little wet too, so that's kind of a little bit on the trickier side. So you see how nice that just pops right out. Grab this guy. All right. What do you do when you have like a crazy crazy background you're not really so super sure of what to do with? What do you tend to do with it? Are you somebody who like uses it as scrap? Do you what is it that you end up doing with it? Okay, that guy's a little stuck. And let me get this big guy. All right. He's almost out. And get the. All right, he's out too. So my background's a little still wet. So I probably would have waited for some of this to dry. But we are in the process of filming this, so it's coming. It's the mini blossoms. Let me go ahead and get these out of here for you to take a look. So you can see some of these other ones that I've done before with some of the different backgrounds I've made. And you can see how nice and sharp and crisp these come out. They're really, really cool looking. Really, really super cool looking. And that's a nice thing about a standalone die set is, or really any dies that you have type, of things. All right, so there's one of them. You can see it's in dark. Sarah, ugly polished stones background that cut into beautiful. I know, it's like sometimes you look at that background and it's the ugliest thing you've, and then if you just in pieces, sometimes it's not so bad. And this is definitely one of those things. So yes, use it for sentiments, Tanya. And Melanie, keep it around for a while. I do that too. I too have a, yep, I have extra die cuts. I have, Sue, I'm definitely talking about extra die cuts. I have these little tins. I just keep them around. Sometimes if it's a stamp set, I'll keep them tucked in with the stamp set. And then I have kind of all of these little pieces. All right, so let me get this out of here. And you definitely need some sort of, there we go. And again, mine, my paper isn't so dry. It's still a little wet from the alcohol ink. I'm gonna try to get this guy out, see if he'll pop out for me. If not, that's okay. I have extras on here. All right, let's see if I can get him. Okay, here we go. We're coming. Here he comes. Like I said, though, my paper is still a little wet, so it's a little alcohol inky wet. But you just look at that. Just look at that beautiful detail and how cool that looks. I mean, it's so neat, and you just get this really neat texture from this. So it's just a really, really cool thing. Okay. All right. And leave this guy be. I got to let him dry a little bit. We're going to use these guys that we have over here. All right. So what I want to do on the card we were just making, so this was the last card that we were found with. I want to take some of these little doodads that I have. And what I would like to do is I'm going to actually use them up and around the my sentiment, just to kind of give it a little bit more flair. So I'm just going to cut some of these off. And I'm just going to kind of stick them in there. Usually, sometimes, how are you guys when you try to place things on your card? Are you somebody who like sticks it down immediately? Or are you somebody who kind of frets about it over time? How is it that how do you kind of stick things down? Metal shim, yep, that is also another one. Pieces would be pretty as stained glass. You just see all that color and all that detail and variation that's in there. So nice. Oh, the detail, the 3D layers. I agree. That would be really, really pretty. So I'm just kind of cutting these apart. And I'm just going to kind of stick them in. And again, what I'm looking for is just a little bit of variation and a little bit of detail. And I usually kind of fret and kind of overthink this and kind of think it through. And I'm doing it a little bit quick right now. But it's usually something that I kind of think about as I move around. So all I'm trying to do is just add a little bit of detail on this, just to give it a little bit of kind of extra something on here. And you can see this is one of the ones that came out. And that was just 3 alcohol ink colors. I want to say, this was just 3 alcohol ink colors. So, all right, let me put this in. And I just want to stick this guy on over here. And I'm just going to put, okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So all that's doing is just giving it a little bit of nice detail, just to kind of set off what we have here. And then, so let me get on to this second card. So I think using the Parlor Palm set as actual, as your main sentiment or as your main kind of focal point, I think is really cool too, because what comes out of here from the Yupo paper is this really cool shininess to it. So, but I need to kind of set it off with something else. So this is another stamp set that I think is really super great. This is called Dots and Boxes. And it has this really, really huge kind of background stamp, but it also has this little magical thing. And this is a super nice border stamp. And so I'm going to actually stamp this on a second card base. So I'm going to make another card. And I'm going to stamp this on a second card base. So let me grab my card base, which I have right here. And this goes perfectly on a card. So I'm just going to do my best to line this up. I want it right on the edge. And I'm going to use the same inks that I used before. I'm going to use Olive and I'm going to use Firefly just to give it a little bit of a difference. So I'm going to ink this up completely with the Firefly. And then what I'm going to do with the Olive, just to kind of show you, is I'm just going to pounce it. Not everywhere. I just want to get a little bit of variation in shading. And so when I push this down, we now have this really cool border. And that has a little bit of differences of color in it. All right, let's put that one over to the side. So now I have a super nice border. So I'm going to take these leaves, and you can see how fast. In fact, I'll even throw this onto my background, my card base, just so I have that ready. Got another green card base because we're doing a lot of green today. A lot of green today. Is anybody else feeling green today? Anybody else with green? I think it's because it's spring up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these as a focal point. So I'm just going to place them down. This is one I did a while ago. Just look at all the variation in that. It's a great one. Grab this. So I'm just going to put these down. And you can use some glue to stick them down. Or you can even use spray adhesive if you have that on hand. Just because these are just so delicate and fine. Another thing that would be great would be to use the Altenew adhesive sheets. But that's another one to put in there. All right, so I have those two big leaves. That's where I'm going to start because those are my two kind of focal pieces. And I really like this one because it kind of bends over. So I'm going to add this just a little bit over on the side. And I'm going to grab this dark green one. You can see how quick something like this can come together. I'm just going to stick this little guy right over here. Okay, so you can see the beautiful shine, the variation you got. And I'm going to grab that same sentiment. This is the Sending Healing Hugs from that Sentiments 2 stamp set. And I'm going to run this through my mini blossom. A lot of die cutting today, everybody. A lot of die cutting. I'm on kind of a die cutting kick. So I'm going to send this through the mini blossom. And so I have this really great sentiment that's just ready to go. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to pop this up with some adhesive, with some foam adhesive tape. And I just take a big piece like this and I just kind of cut it right in half. Another way, it's a lot of saving little tricks here today. Just kind of stick that on there. All right. So I need to know, what do you guys think? Is this Parlor Palm set something that you're interested in? What do you think now about standalone die sets? Is the Parlor Palm set of something you have that maybe you're going to reach for when you go crafting again? That you haven't thought about using in a while? Okay, there we go. I think that's kind of straightish. All right, so you can see we have this great texture from doing the alcohol inks and kind of putting them through. And these little sentiments, just strips, are really, really great. All right, we have to, of course, add one little piece because no card is ever complete without some sort of embellishment. And I got to tell you, these are amazing. These are from Altenew. They come in various colors. This happens to be the Tropical Forest set. As I said, I'm a little bit on a green kick. So I'd love to know, are you on a green kick too? Is this like, oh, this is great, I think I'm going to go green? So I'm going to grab these, and I'm grabbing these because these are some of the colors that I used. So this is Tropical Forest, is this one, which is Parrot and Olive. And so since that's my greens, these coordinate perfectly. I'm kind of, I'm not so great all the time with matching colors, so I really need somebody or a company like Altenew to tell me what to put next to each other, and it really does help. So I'm going to grab some of these little doodads, and I'm just going to add them in. You can just see, like, just by adding in like a couple of little touches, it kind of helps to just kind of add some little bit of focus on what it is that you're doing. Oh, I don't think I want him there. I think I want him right here. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to add a little bit of doodads over here, but I'm not going to use the olive. I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter color. All right. Throw him right in there. I always kind of put things in threes. Yes, Naomi, they're the same. That's great. Let me show you. I don't know if you can see it. This middle one, that's Parrot. Can you see that? See that, Naomi? And then if I want Olive, the olive is right here. So that's the third one. So it coordinates perfectly. And so these are really great little things to have. I have this set. This is obviously my favorite one, which is Seashore. No, Lydia, I'm sorry. We're not using it, though. And so you can see that it has those same up there. So it's really great to have these because it's just going to coordinate perfectly, and you don't have to think about it. So therefore, your fun can be on the crafting. And that's the great part about it, is we just all want to sound and not have to think, and we just want to have fun, and we just want to craft. And that's what I really love about Altenew, is because since everything is so coordinated, I don't have to think about it. I mean, think about it. We used a little bit of green here today, so it's all kind of the same thing. All right, so to show you what we did, we made an alcohol ink panel. So we made an alcohol ink panel, and then we used the Parlor Palms die set in order to cut some of these out of it. And we also used this set to make our own stamps. We made our own stamps, everybody. This is great. So these standalone die sets are really, really awesome because you can use them with so many different things. And so with our own stamp, we made this really cool background, and we added some of the die cuts just to kind of give it a little bit of a pop to it. And then because we're using these alcohol inks, and again, I'm all analogous colors. I'm all about analogous colors. And so since I'm using analogous colors, it's really great because I know I'm not going to make mud. And so I get all this kind of variation in my leaves, and I can use these. And these have so much texture and shine because of the Yupo paper. I don't have to do anything else with them. And then I love this dots and boxes on the side because it just is like the perfect little touch of having just something to kind of balance out what the heck is going on with the rest of it. So, oh yeah, Pauline, great idea, Pauline. And letters, yes, that's a great idea, Pauline. The Mega Alphabet set, this is great because, yeah, you could actually make your own stamps, and you could stamp somebody's name out or happy birthday or even their age or anything out with that. And this is a great set to have. So these are, again, this is kind of like all the fabulous things that you can do with dies today. And Naomi, I adore Altenew too. They are amazing, and I'm so glad. I hope you guys are inspired. So I'd love to know how many of you right now are going to run home, and are you going to run home and start playing around with your dies? So I'd love to know: are you going to run home, and when it's your crafting time, are you going to be playing around with your dies? So I'd love to know that. So I'm going to flip up to the top here. Hi. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. And so today, I hope that you got some great ideas, and I hope that you're able to kind of take those standalone die releases, that Altenew has. They come around periodically, and take another look at them. Even take a look at your die sets, and maybe you can use them as stamps. So you can use them fun foam as stamps. You can kind of cut some different shapes out of them and think about kind of putting those shapes on together. And even the even this die set is another great one. You cut these out of all kinds of different colors and kind of make your own mosaic out of that, since they're all on there. And I agree with Lydia. Be careful with your letters, because you got to make sure they go on the right way. I've definitely been guilty of that as well. So thank you so much. I'm so glad, Christine. I'm so glad you're going to run home. And Lori, I'm so glad that you were able to craft with me today. And don't forget to share this live for a chance to win a $15 Altenew gift card. And again, thank you so much to Lydia, who is behind the badge. And I apologize for any sort of technical difficulties we had today. But thank you so much, Lydia, for being behind the badge. And Nancy, yes, the Craft a Flower die sets, those would be so cool as stamps. So think about using those as a stamp. It's another way to kind of think about stretching that. So it's such a big price point, those dies. But if you can use them in so many different ways, I think it would be really great. And then it's it becomes a little bit different, because my own paper, that's one thing that you can do. That's what this is for here. So that's your own paper, which is really, really, really great. So I wanted to thank you, Tanya. Hope you guys are inspired, and thank you so much for joining us here, Altenew, on this lovely live. And I hope you guys